the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a moment of silent prayer. Amen.
Amen.
It is 20th of August, 2024, Tuesday evening. We're in the town of Bath Municipal Center. Can I have a roll call, please?
Scott Harkey.
Here.
Susan Webster is here. Elizabeth Skinner. Here. Mary Lynn Hickey. Here. Rebecca McLeod. Here. Greg Sheen.
Here.
And David O'Connell.
Here. Can we have the minutes from our August 6th meeting? I'll take any additions and corrections and common consent. Everything looked good to me, but everybody good with it? All right, common consent? Okay. All right. To take care of, we have persons before council. Claire Sheen, you have the floor.
Thank you. So council and mayor, you'll find packets in front of you with the details, but my name is Claire Sheen and we are here about the Bath Christmas Market, West Virginia. It'll be hosted on December 12th through 15th. All I'm asking for is just the upper Fairfax of the gravel lot next to that, just to be closed off as it is for the farmers market, not to affect our shops or anything on the lower Fairfax. And then Liberty Street for the ice rink that we're bringing in for that event.
Yeah.
Everything else is in your packets.
Yeah. Liberty Street on by
Between-
the church.
Right, the church and CB Bank, and CB Bank is allowing parking in their
Okay.
lot for the church members on their days of service.
Okay. Okay.
Already cleared.
Clear up.
It's the lower half of North Liberty.
Right, so it won't
Not
block
through
the
from the bank.
handicap.
So it's set up from 522 up to that lower half. Yeah, just the lower end.
So it's gonna be.
The rink will fit right in there.
Right, so it's gonna be where they would turn in to go to the church, and then where they, coming out of C and B, it'll come up to that point.
Yes.
You've already checked with the church,
Yeah.
right? So,
Everything's good.
so we've got good to go there, so, they've got parking, so, okay.
Okay. The actual gravel lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's not us. That's
Correct.
the.
I have all that from the
Oh,
councilman and from the church
Okay.
and, yep,
Okay. Just
getting all
just,
my
right,
I's
for the
dotted
state
and
park,
T's
you know,
crossed.
that's, we can't do any, Ice House, we can't do anything there. It's only Liberty Street that's really.
Yep.
I
Okay.
think
So we'll do
we
this
have
year.
Something to say, to say about.
Yeah, we'll keep it simple.
If everybody's okay all around it, I don't have any problem with it. I make a motion that we, well, and then we can,
We have street meter closures too. You want to add
wait a
that?
minute, okay. Oh, okay, I see.
Well, they'll already be closed anyway.
Right, it's the.
They're already gonna be closed.
Mhm.
No, it's true. That's right. They're gonna be
Upper
there.
Fairfax.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
That's right.
Upper Fairfax next, okay.
Yeah, they'll all be closed. So, I mean, there's really not a,
Fairfax Street is going to be closed too.
Only on the right side, not the left, because the ambulances need to be able to come down, just like
So are we closing Fairfax? Is that what
the
you're asking?
upper part, not the lower part.
Fairfax.
And the one that's up there by the, just like the
Yeah, I
farmer's
know what you're
market.
talking about. I'm just saying
Okay.
that
Mhm.
is in here.
so now will that be closed for that period of time then? Or-
3 days?
Yeah, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Okay.
if that's okay.
So basically, it's gonna be one-way traffic, so
Yeah,
that
there
the
you go.
911s and the ambulances and stuff can get in and out.
I would suggest too that you talk to 911 and the fire department all, because the reason that if you recall, you guys, the reason that the farmer's market always closes both sides is their, you know very well, is because people get mixed up and they will turn up Fairfax from
okay.
522, because, you know.
So it might be
they'll think
cleaner to
it's
just
bad.
close it in both directions for that single block.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just
yeah,
like they do for the
okay.
farmer's market, if that's okay.
Okay, and you're doing this for 3 days?
If that's
So
okay.
everything will be set up for 3
Mhm.
days?
Is there any concern with Fairfax being, the people who live up on Fairfax,
It's a state
3
road.
days going around?
Yeah. I'm trying to think back to when we first did the farmer's market and if it was.
Right, whether they had to have DOH permission.
Yeah,
That's-
but
Yeah, it's kind of
the problem
24
is,
hours closure.
it was a state road, but remember, we made that deal with them to get the bricks. As they didn't want to put the bricks down, and we wanted the bricks, didn't want it blacktop.
You don't
I'm
have
not
it in
sure they gave
writing.
us the
Yeah,
road.
it is
We-
right. That,
They,
I'd like to see it.
We,
They
it's
require us
still
to
the
take
state
care of
road,
it.
we agreed to the maintenance.
Right.
Because they do,
Yeah.
the state does not maintain bricks.
okay.
So
Right.
our maintenance,
Yeah.
it's still a state road, because if you remember, this is what you get when you're on council for a
Yeah,
long time. You remember the
Two
time,
of us are trying to remember.
I know, but remember over when we had the hoo-ha over the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and who belongs to the, and they came to us for permission to put it there, and we had some opinions and like that, and they said, they didn't like our opinion, so they went to the state road, the state road said, that's ours. Look at the tax map, it's ours, and so they got permission from the,
Yeah, the state.
Well, let's do this then. I think there should be a phone call, one to the chamber because they have experience with apple butter.
absolutely.
So let's talk to someone at Apple Butter in regard to that, and then DOH.
Well, can I ask a
They'll make the,
question?
they'll make the short.
Why does Fairfax need to be closed if everything's in the gravel lot?
I was just thinking for safety, so people can move around a little easier, but we don't have to if you don't want to. If you just want cars everywhere, that's fine by me.
I mean, everything's
That's
gonna be happening in the gravel lot, correct?
You just have people kind of moving around and dark.
Do anyway.
Okay.
I think probably for the same reason for the farmer's market, that street is closed off.
Farmers
Are you gonna
market
have
sets
vendor-
up in the
Are you gonna
street.
have vendors in the street or no, Claire?
See,
Um,
that makes a lot of
so-
sense to, if
Yeah.
the vendors for the farmers market are in the street.
Right.
Right.
And they're crossing and they're on the median. If everything's in the gravel lot, people are using the sidewalk, we'll keep them on the sidewalk. They don't
Right.
need to be in the street there.
Don't need to be, but I think to follow up on Greg's suggestion, it might be a good idea just to talk to the 911 and the fire department, because they might have a safety opinion
Okay.
about closing the street or not
Okay.
closing the
Get
street.
the right
I'm
person there
indifferent.
that will.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, and
Alright.
so I think that is worth being mindful of, with just all the people traffic. So let's do that, and then, can we table an approval to the next meeting?
May I offer a
That
friendly
would be
suggestion?
fine, because I think, because the farmer's market, you go through some protocol every Sunday that is pretty, when you hear that whistle, you move in.
And I can speak on that a little bit. Part of the agreement is that we're closing the street. We have to make sure that we're opening it whenever the whistle goes for traffic to come down. And we've had-
Right.
We've had a
Okay.
lot of issues with people coming up the street, coming down the street,
Yeah, that's true. All right.
coming through the bank, trying to use the
And that's
ATM.
broad
Yeah.
daylight too, and that's some of us
Right.
run into the evening hours, so
Well,
that just
And
makes
it's
sense.
always a surprise when you get there because you forget to turn before.
You do.
Okay.
There's some little kinks here that
Yeah,
nothing
that-
is
that have a
unworkable. It
solution,
just-
But let's just get the solution.
Too friendly, I meant to think of, because your main one that's coming up with safety, if I'm reading it correct,
Yes.
is one is to cone the edge of the street on the curb. Like, basically remind people,
Yeah.
don't just step
We have
out
barriers
casually if
we
you got a
can
lot
put
of
up.
crowd. And the
Yeah,
other one is
good idea.
possibly to have one person hired private to just keep an eye on. And rather than have to have an officer there all the time,
It's a thing.
it's not too expensive during worse hours, like busy hours,
Mhm.
having someone just watch over.
Thank you.
I've hired private
It's a-
security
it's a-
before, it's
it's
not
a
that
thing.
expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fire
Yeah,
department
Yeah, well,
is-
safety is paramount. We
Right.
want it to be successful then.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Hey, we're just thinking on the morning of the 12th, somebody, I don't know if it's gonna be the town responsibility or Claire, but should probably put signage,
Yeah.
parking lot closed, all that kind of stuff. And I think now would be a good time to determine who's gonna do that, because otherwise, everybody coming to work on that Friday morning is gonna park there.
Absolutely.
And so I would just try to determine who's gonna be
We're
responsible
gonna
for
have
that.
to talk to the county if you've all,
Not that no.
so, yeah, just to make sure that they can get permission to use that on the Friday. And I think it would be good to, so we can do signage, no parking, blah, 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 blah. I think this is all good, so,
And I tell you what, talking to the chamber, I think you mentioned that would be good, because they've got some protocol down pretty pretty well. I mean.
Well, it's a well-oiled machine for them,
Yeah.
both apple butter and the farmer's market, so.
Yeah, both of those groups are there all the time. It's not a bad idea to get some things straight with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want
Is that
to
okay?
table this to the next meeting? Are you good with that?
Oh,
Okay, what it means is that it does stay on the agenda. It will be
Sure.
on the agenda.
Okay.
To make some.
Let's get all this.
No, that's great, and then
Yeah.
I think, we think next week we'll have a better plan that has, a lot, more safety, considerations factored in by folks who've been doing this a
You know
lot.
what would help me a lot? A map. Show me actually a map, what you propose to be closed and what that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think Sandy's working on that.
Yeah.
This street, that
Yeah,
street,
you
so
got
that, you know,
Yeah.
for somebody like me, that helps a lot.
Okay.
So,
We just want to make sure we have permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, once you
Okay.
get all that,
Okay,
okay,
we expect you back here next meeting to
Yeah.
present this.
report back in 2 weeks, Claire.
Yes, ma'am.
we'll be right here.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we're gonna move on. Don't really have any communications from mayor. So we're gonna move on down to, the BAP development. Let's see, you have anything for that? Okay. So we'll move on down to Parks and Recs. Don't have anybody here for Parks and Recs either. Planning Commission.
First, just one minor correction. I briefed it last time, that is correct. We're not having a meeting in September, but we are having, our October meeting will be on the 10th, not the 3rd. So I asked for correction there. And our monthly meeting was conducted the first Thursday of the month. And we did also attend the BDA meeting, a lot of focus on track and our efforts with a comprehensive plan. So very receptive, good communication, good coordination going for that. And the weekly working group continues on Mondays, and we're moving on. Any questions for me?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. All right, Rails and Trails.
On the meeting, they normally would have it on the fourth Wednesday, which is 28th. I am not sure we're gonna have a meeting because we haven't heard anything back from DOH after the last meeting, and I believe we consulted them with what the team thought should happen. So I could do some, pull some strings to see if anything happened. And Rebecca, you have a point on the plantings that's going on?
We've ordered, plants from North Creek Wholesale Nursery. They're actually landscape plugs, 33 flats, 1,500 plants that will be going in down at the depot during the month of September. I don't expect to get it all done in one day. And I'm looking for volunteers.
Any other questions on Rail Trail? That's it.
North Creek
North Creek Nursery.
Nursery.
Do you already have a date that you want volunteers or?
We're gonna start, cleaning up the area on the 10th to get ready for planning, and we may do some planning that day. I haven't really got the dates down. Maybe Thursday afternoon, so they're done. Shouldn't take too much time. They're tiny, they're plugs, so. And hopefully the soil is nice and loose, because it's Hugels.
Right.
Yeah. it should be.
Moving on to streetscapes then.
All right.
The main thing, I mean, you've got my report for this, it'll be on the website of the town eventually. Basically, the big deal is sometime in the next, I would guess, week and a half, 2 weeks, we're gonna get a contract award for the construction of phase 5. That is both sides of Independence Street between Washington and Mercer, and the east side of Wilk Street between Independence and Union. That, once we get a contract award, it triggers a number of things. Basically, setting some dates, getting a pre-construction meeting. And in that will be the discussion of how that gets to work around Apple Butter Festival, the most important part of it. At this point, the award could come, early September. I swear it takes a month before you even get to a pre-construction meeting, and that's right around Apple Butter Festival. The last time we did this was in the park, and the contractor just held off from loading his stuff into the area until after Apple Butter Festival. I think that's probably a goal
Yeah.
right now. You don't want a bunch of trucks and equipment hanging around center of town. So this may or may not cause problems in the contract, but, tough.
Right. Yep.
I think that's it. I think I don't have anything else.
Anybody got any questions?
Suggestion?
Yeah.
If they can't hold off on bringing stuff, is there some place they could stage that outside of town somewhere, and then they can just bring it over? Then they're not having to set up in the town.
And that's possibly negotiable. We've done
Like
that.
helpful.
Unfortunately, that tends to involve the depot lot, which already has an involvement in apple butter.
The
So,
contractor isn't too far away, like the last contractor that we had streetscape with, so it's possible. But it has to be the contractor's agreement.
yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time figuring out, we know who it is, but they haven't been awarded, so we don't say anything.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, and they can be out of town, if that's what they want to do. They were helpful the last time that this came up.
That's good.
The whole idea, and right up to the point when they were not helpful.
Oh.
There wouldn't be a contractor otherwise.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
You hate negotiating a contract the day you sign it.
That's it. That's it.
Any
All right,
questions?
Pete.
Okay, I gotta go.
Thank you.
He's got to be on an appointment next week.
Yeah.
All right, train depot.
Okay, the depot, we had, 2 shows of the weekend. This is Isabella and her traveling companion, this past weekend, well attended. It was, a lot of fun, and I do tell everyone on council and everyone in the public, there are 2 more shows in September, the 3rd weekend in September. Go and see it. It is well worth it, and it helps, that beautiful little piece of town property. We have received some comments from Travel Berkeley Springs on the lease proposal. We looked at it very, very briefly at Finance Committee. I just got it this afternoon. So we hope to get back with Travel Berkeley Springs and maybe meet with them and to talk about some of the issues and hash things out. We think that might help things move along quicker than going back to the attorney, which always takes time and money. So that's the plan. And as a matter of fact, I've already asked Stephanie, asked her a little bit ago. So, hopefully we can work something out soon and get this all nailed down so we can move ahead for the good of both entities and their constituents. So, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Susan? All right, let's move on. Landmarks Commission, we need to rouse them and find out what's going on. Yeah, we need to. Okay, clerk and recorder's report. Madam Clerk, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Madam Recorder, do you have anything?
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, do have a property request here for the train depot for apple butter.
Yes, we did have that, I
So,
forgot that. And we did recommend that, that be allowed, but it is, if you guys recall, the last apple butter, and also when we had the grand opening on Veterans Day, the Morgan County Historic and Genealogical Society set up a display. And it was wonderful, and they were in there and talked to people about the history of the town, history of the depot, history of Morgan County, and they loved doing it. And so they asked about this. I first and had an application in. I also talked with Stephanie Rebant, the president of Travel Berkeley Springs. She said she didn't think that anything that weekend would have, any effect on Travel Berkeley Springs and any kind of move and like that. And so, we recommended in the Finance Committee meeting that we do allow that. If you want a motion and to make it more official here at council, we can do that if you
Yeah, let's
like.
do that. That way it's.
Motion to approve the property use requests at the train depot bring apple butter.
Second.
All right, I have a first and second on the floor to approve our property use request for the train depot during the apple butter. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Go visit them and buy their stuff. That good stuff.
All right, well, let's move down to finance, pay some bills.
Okay, I make a motion that we pay the town of Bath bills in the amount of $17,426.59.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to pay the town of Bath bills in the amount of $17,426.59. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I make a motion to pay the Berkeley Springs Waterworks bills in the amount of $69,716.87.
Second.
Woo.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to pay the Berkeley Springs Waterwork bills in the amount of $69,716.87. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I make a motion that we pay the North Berkeley Rail Trail bills in the amount of $237.96.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to pay the North Berkeley Rail to Trail bills in the amount of $237.96. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries.
I make a motion that we pay the train depot bills in the amount of $104.78.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to pay the train depot bills in the amount of $104.78. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Okay, and I make a motion to pay the tree board bills in the amount of $195.
Second.
I have a motion to pay the tree board bills in the amount of $190 even. Any discussion?
Is that 190 even?
$195.
$195.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I said 190. It's $195. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, done. Let's move on to tree board.
There's nothing to report. We are, meeting tomorrow at 4:00. I guess this is something to report. We've received the go-ahead from Division of Forestry. The clock is now running in terms of the, grant that we recently applied for.
What does that mean, Kate? Because I'm asking just for clarification for grants committee as well. I know that you submitted the grant application, and so now it's basically in process. Is that what you're reporting?
The way it works, at least with the Division of Forestry, is that, the grant is approved. We get a word that the grant has been approved, but we can't start spending money, until we have an actual piece of paper with the date of the starting.
Okay, so this is fairly recent that you found out it was approved.
No,
A couple of weeks ago.
a couple of weeks
Okay.
ago. There's
Well-
always a little bit of lag.
Okay. Grant is approved and you're waiting for the grant term
We have-
and funding and
No,
letter
we
and
have
stuff.
received the notice that the clock is running,
Okay.
that we can start spending money at this point.
Could you, how much is it?
A little bit under 5, I think.
1,000?
Yes.
Thank you.
Not 100,000.
All right, thank you, Kate. All right, let's move to grant.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes.
I'll do my, updates and then, Rebecca has the approval. That's you doing that.
Approval for what?
Begin negotiations with
Oh,
ownership.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so, update on grants. Last Friday, SHPO did award the town our two cemeteries both got grants to do some improvement work. The, German cemetery is getting an ADA accessible walkway. And that's the Foxglove ladies take care of that. And then the Old English Cemetery is getting some fencing. DIR ladies do that, and we divided up the grant funds proportionately based on the budgets that they had submitted to me, and then I submitted to SHPO. So, last Friday, they did a walkthrough. Rebecca was very helpful too, just in terms of the planning of walkway, the contractor was there, all good things. So that one is in process. We should know by September 30th about the COPS grant application status. The Appalachian Forest Grant was submitted for the Newtown website on July 30. We should be hearing about that pretty soon. And I also have now had a chance to chat with the Morgan County IT gentleman, Scott, about this grant for police department computers. And Melanie, who's over in the county building as well, who's already applied and they got money. And it sounds like it's a big old pot until people stop applying, just apply and get something. I could be oversimplifying. I'm not. So that grant is going to be going in the next 2 weeks. There's also a grant that I am submitting for free playground equipment up to $100,000. And if I do it before October 18th, they'll cover the full cost. And that would be a really cool thing to change the energy over in the William Street.
North Berkeley Community Park.
Yes, thank you. And those who frequent it to just kind of diversify the uses and open it up for some more community enjoyment. So those are the ones that we have in the hopper. The next grant meeting is September 9th at 4:30. And with that, I will turn it over to Rebecca.
The NRCS Watershed Planning Grant is moving forward. The selection committee has received 5 submissions for their request for qualifications. The committee, which comprised 4 people, went through the submissions, ranked them, selected the top 3. Then we proceeded to send additional questions out for a written response from the top 3. We got those back, ranked those, and then we had interviews last week, or was it this week?
Last week.
Last week. And we're ready to begin negotiations with your permission with the top ranked firm. If we can come to an agreement with them, then we will notify all of the rest of them. If we can't, then we would move to the second ranked firm.
It sounds like the 5G process that is pretty standard.
We're following the federal
Yeah.
acquisition
Okay.
rules and the state follows.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so I would like permission to begin the negotiations.
Do we need a motion?
That probably would be a good idea.
It's nice to have it in writing.
Motion to begin negotiations with the Watershed Planning Engineering firm.
Second.
A motion and a second on the floor to begin the negotiations with the Watershed Planning Engineering firm. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right,
I'll just make a note that this is 100% at the cost of the federal government.
good deal. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on then. Public safety, I wasn't here last week. Do you guys have anything to report?
Just a couple small things. We postponed a decision on Park Mobile until after the first of the year. Our new parking enforcement officer has been doing a wonderful job thus far. He's been here about just over 30 days. And we also disposed of some of the old weapons that we had upstairs safely and collected a little money for that as well.
Good deal, good deal. All right, Sandy, you have anything? Okay. All right, then we'll move on down the cemetery.
As the town council knows, because of the drought conditions we've had, we have not moved the cemetery in several weeks because it hasn't been necessary. Typically, our contract ends for mowing Labor Day. We are in the process of discussing with our contractor to go through the cemetery one more time before the end of the season, in a sense, to get it ready for next summer, or for winter, so it's not in such a bad shape. when spring comes around. And then we will be done with that for the summer.
Do you have any idea what we saved because of the?
I don't offhand. I asked Sharon if she would look it up for me.
Well, isn't it like 4,600 a mowing, something like that?
3,600.
3,600, and you got at least 4 that you didn't have to do, for
That's
sure.
what I would, that's what I estimate.
Spending that.
Yeah,
14.4.
yeah, that certainly helps us out.
Yeah, thank you.
Mausoleum is finished as I reported the last time I was here. I do want to publicly thank, Pete Brown for all the work that he did, helping me get the mausoleum project finished. Now we're ready to move on to putting in an educational sign for, our only Union Civil War general, so I'm in the process of doing that application. I am also working on a home rule application to move toward taking a very small portion of the Old English Cemetery that actually is kind of isolated from the rest of the cemetery and sell it to a private family who has been using that part of the cemetery as a driveway for decades. They will be responsible for all the legal fees. It will be submitted to the Home Rule Board, and they will make the determination of whether we can move forward to do this. And that will be going to the ordinance committee sometime within the next month, I hope. And our next cemetery committee meeting is the 27th at 9 a.m.
I would make a point that we haven't done the landscaping on top of the mausoleum
Oh,
yet.
yes, excuse me, I forgot. Rebecca is graciously working with that as we figure out what to do there. It will not only beautify the area more, it would also protect the top area from being accessible for someone to hang off the edge above the mausoleum. So,
And keep the drainage going around.
Right.
That
Right.
it's not coming back in.
yes.
don't have the
So
same
we have
problem.
a couple things still to do on top, which we will get done. And we still have some grant money to do that, so that will not be an issue. But then the building itself is done. The restoration's been done on that, so it's just,
It was a long haul. That was a long haul, Beth. Thank you.
it was a lot of work on
I
that.
Yes,
thought it
absolutely.
would,
It looks really good.
Yeah, it does. It turned out nice. So, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on down to Public Works.
The staff has been finishing up the paint job. I think they've almost got everything. We need to look at some of the parking spaces on Congress Street to make sure that they're lined up and that we have enough, get us the maximum amount of parking that we can. And they've been doing mowing, and they'll proceed to try and cleaning up the street after they get that mowing done. I hope that people looks better.
It does.
All right, thank you. Let's move on down to ordinance.
All right, light on ordinance today. Next meeting is this Thursday at 4 p.m. We will have some folks in front of ordinance at that time. We have completed a significant set of tasks for the first 12 months, and our docket is beginning to refill. We have received a letter on August 19th from our attorney, William Rurball, in regard to our submission to the Public Service Commission of West Virginia for the water tariff with capacity fees. At this point, and I'll quote the letter, it appears the town of Bath has substantially complied with the process to adopt the ordinance as provided in Tariff Rules 23-1-7 and 23-2-1. We just have two very small requirements, which one was completed today, which was a notice to customers, the proposed rate change through a Class 2 legal advertisement in the Morgan Messenger, tariff form number 12, and an affidavit showing that we had the tariff on file here in a conspicuous place at the business premises for 30-day period. And that is all I have.
That sounds like de facto approval unless I'm not hearing that correctly.
The rest, well, it
Right.
moves to the legal department. It will be referred to legal division for review,
Got
at
it.
which time it's about 45 days after reenactment for it to become effective.
Okay,
So we're right
thank
on
you.
schedule.
Thank you.
All right, good deal, thanks. Very. Waterworks,
Waterworks, so got quite a bit of updates here. As far as the 522 extension project, we do have one more sign off. So we've moved up to 5 out of 16. The sign offs, I'm a little concerned that we're running a little bit too slow. Our general end date should be by the end of September. If we don't make by roughly the end of September, and this is both for the sewer as well as the waterworks, the grant may be canceled. So that's one of our deadlines that we're worried about achieving. Along that line, we have had, as of this week, a lot more communications and contact with various parties. So quite frankly, getting contact is, in my mind, a bigger issue than getting somebody to sign on a dotted line. If you have good communications, eventually whatever issue somebody has, you'll eventually get a sign off. So that to me is the big progress. The second issue that I want to bring up is the budget. So I'm just about ready to get approval for the FY25 budget. We're actually behind, but traditionally the water company seems to be behind. I've looked at the previous years and it's not unusual to get it done in August, which is basically making your budget 2 months late. And in this case, that's actually very important because of the rate increase. So the rate increase, I've had to adjust expectations for the 45-day wait period. Basically, every month that was delayed cost me another $25,000. I had to cancel projects simply because of the delay in basically the process. But the good news is we had a very good meeting on the budget, FY24. Basically, finances got a little bit really out of whack. We went over expenses and basically who was watching the lines turn red kind of thing. I feel much better about our budget for FY25, obviously with the influx of revenue. That's a huge help to balancing things in terms of where things are going. And the big news, and this happened today with our water bills. It was a very big bill for $69,000. That's part of the budget change. One of the big changes was reconstituting the R&R fund and refunding that. So that's a big chunk of money that has to go in every month. To that end, future, we're going to have to start figuring out our long-term planning on how to appropriately use the R&R fund, as well as get some control on these projects, better control and input, such as the extension plan. So long-term planning is where that R&R really comes into play. And the last thing I want to comment on, I feel compelled to comment today on, is the meter level was questioned. And I said about a month ago that I was looking into the issue. Actually, we were looking into the issue since about March on the meter levels being questioned by the sewer company. And the sewer company's question was, or assertion was, that the meter levels were low. And so we actually, the superintendent actually implemented replacement plans for meters back in April. That was first part of the engagement. And that was necessary, quite frankly. It was equipment getting old. They should have been replaced. That process is, I'll say, a lot more disciplined now in terms of the process determining if meters should be replaced and what have you. The level of replacements is never going to account for what the sewer company was looking for. The sewer company was looking for something that simply didn't exist. What is in this has shifted now to much more of an analytical comparison. And what has shown to me, and I'm looking at sewer company numbers as well as our own, there is no real change year over year in terms of what's been happening on meter readings. So year over year, month by month, there's a reasonable difference. There is a seasonal factor, and I believe that was causing basically the interpretation that the sewer company was behind budget. They have since then had started to recover some of their budgets. And I do think, and this is talking a little out of school, I think potentially they had an overly optimistic expectation on the revenue side. I can't really speak for them on that issue. There are some issues, as I said, some old equipment, but it wasn't contributing at all in a meaningful way to what they were looking for. They were looking for like $60,000 worth of impact. It's basically about 5% of their budget. It's a huge number. The equipment was not getting old that fast. There was a specific issue, and that was the courthouse is special equipment, and we're waiting on parts for that special equipment. That caused the sewer company to have all kinds of grief, but that's the only one that's really grief issue. For us, as our minimum charging, we didn't really notice that it wasn't even working. And it was simply because our minimum was just fine in terms of where they were charging at. For them, the way that was going, it was a much bigger issue. That was a unique issue, which really had nothing to do with meters going old. We've had a communication on Facebook today, which was illogical in the other direction. And that is, we've had a discussion in the last meeting in which somebody was complaining, well, geez, I'm using this much. And they had a very high meter level. Today's comment on Facebook was a very high level. This is illogical, I'm saying, from the assertion that meters are reading low. Well, you're not going to suddenly start having meters reading high. Somebody probably has a leak. So if you're hearing things on Facebook, I need to research the individual who's making that statement. But my gut is at 7,000 gallons in a given month, it's a bit high. If it's unusual for them, it may be a leak. Otherwise, maybe they do have an excessive use of water. They may think it's efficient, but it depends on who you are. Some people drive an F-350 and think that's efficient gas usage. I drive a C-Max, so what one person's efficiency, it may not be somebody else's. I hope that wasn't over talking.
Thanks for that, Dave. I do really want to lift up that you have drilled down with empirical data, and I want to give Sharon her props because I know that she was a big part of aggregating some of that data. To really move this conversation into to be grounded in actual data rather than opinion. And in doing that, we've really been able to sort of dismiss some of the presumptions that there was some disconnect. So I really appreciate that happened. And who got a bill for 69,000?
The 69,000 was part of our budget moving into another area of the budget.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Okay.
to an outside.
I just wanted to clarify that for everyone sitting here that no one got a $69,000 bill.
No.
Who were we talking about here?
The
$69,000
Oh.
that was
Right.
approved.
So, yeah,
Payment
so
went
let
from
me,
one part of the water budget
Let
into
me-
the R&R account.
Right.
yeah, let me
There.
clarify that. 69,000 we just approved
Yes.
is a very big number. And it is a very big number because we're now trying to implement the FY 24-25 budget. Part of that budget is reinstituting, basically funding the R&R account. Last year, we stopped funding it because cash flow problems. So part of get your cash flow, you're in shape, basically means start to basically put your money in your savings account so that you can take care of problems when they occur. The R&R account is for repair and replace. So it's good to have money for repair and replace programs. But that 69,000 was actually a reference of 2 months worth of funding. That's why it was so big. And I'm kind of proud that we actually are getting our financial act back in order. Thank you for that.
Thanks. Okay. We are at the end of the meeting. Is there anything that needs to be brought up by any council member here? Okay, if not, I'm going to open the floor up. You're going to have 3 minutes to speak. There's a lot of people here. I don't know if everybody wants to speak or whatever. So,
You gonna be the timer?
yep, we've got a timer here. When you get to 3 minutes, we've got to cut it off. If not, we'll be here till
I'll do it.
midnight. Okay?
I'll do it.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
kind chime you'll hear when it's time to stop talking.
Good enough. So I guess we'll let Scott go first. He's standing up and he's chomping at the bit, so.
Well, I'm gonna propose an ordinance to the ordinance committee on Thursday, hopefully, for a non-discrimination ordinance. And I know, I got feeling some of you guys have reservations about this. The ordinance itself will cost the town no money. But what it does, it will protect anyone of minority age, sex, as a veteran, handicap, divorced, married, color, religion. And although I don't think, I've been here for 16 years and I've never saw a problem. I think in the recent months, the division in this town caused by whoever it may be is making our town seem like we're a bunch of white supremacists, anti-Semitic homophobes. And I hear from people coming in and say, well, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. I got the support. I today went out for 1 hour. I got 25 people to sign a petition for it. I got the backing of TBS and the backing of the chamber for this ordinance. I'd like to know what else I need to do, or what information would you like to know about it before I present it, so that I have all the information that you might need. And if you have any questions about it, this is Andrew. He's from Fairness, West Virginia. The ordinance itself is in how many small towns?
19.
19 small towns in West Virginia.
Well, I'll tell you, Scott, basically, something like this usually is referred to committee, and it kind of is, you know, I've never seen it. I guess I'll see it tomorrow. So I have an understanding, but I don't, and generally it goes through the committee, system and like that, and then comes up, so,
Yeah, that's basically how we operate through the committee, and then it comes out of committee to.
I would just, you guys, anybody have any concerns at all about it? That you, like,
I have a question. Yeah, I'm a veteran. You said veteran. So what kind of discrimination would it prevent, or
from
what does it do?
if somebody's against veterans and they do.
Well, I mean, is it actions, thoughts? What are we
Employment,
talking?
housing, and
Employment,
public,
housing.
I'm sorry?
employment, housing, and public accommodations.
Okay, is there anything that this does to enforce that federal and state law don't do?
This would give someone a private cause of action to take a claim of discrimination to court.
And the state and the federal laws don't allow that?
Some federal law allows some of these protections, but not all of the protections. And so the state law is also not comprehensive, and it
In which
excludes.
way?
Well, there are certain classes that are not protected under state law. Sexual orientation, gender identity is one of them, but there's others as well.
Would that be superseded by federal law though, if they weren't protected under state law? Those
No, federal
protected
law is not
classes at the
comprehensive
federal level?
either. Yeah,
Sorry?
federal law also is not comprehensive either. Just recently, the 1964 Civil Rights Act was extended protections in employment to sexual orientation and gender identity in the Bostock case that went before the Supreme Court. But housing and public accommodations are, still don't have those protections for LGBTQ people.
Thank you.
Okay, so for a veteran, it doesn't really do anything for me.
No, I'm not sure. I think,
I mean, if the state law
under state
means-
law, I'm not sure that state law provides those protections. There are, like I said, it's not comprehensive.
All right,
I can't rattle off exactly what
Okay,
protections.
so those are the kind of questions I would have.
right,
Yeah.
that's it. What I would advise, Scott, is to come to the ordinance committee, and then we'll hash it out in the ordinance committee instead of sitting here and going around the room. The ordinance committee's meeting is Thursday.
Thursday at 4 PM. And the ordinance, it's a process. And
Yeah, I realize-
ordinance takes
I
6,
realize
7, or
it's
8
not,
months to complete, and
next
are
big
well
deal.
thought out. And we do ask for input, and we will share our input. and our
I realize
thoughts.
that.
Okay.
I just want to make you abreast of what I was doing. I don't want you to be out in town saying, this is going on and you don't know about it. I just want you to know about it. So.
That's
Thank you,
fine.
Scott.
Yep.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
I'd just like to say a few words about that really briefly in general.
Okay, I'm just gonna give you 3 more minutes. Let's reset that clock.
And could I have your name and?
My name is Andrew Schneider. I'm the Executive Director of Fairness West Virginia.
Off you go, Andrew.
Thank you. So like Scott was saying, there are 19 municipalities that provide these protections, and they're not just for, the moral good of these protections, preventing discrimination from happening. They also serve a very practical purpose. Towns have adopted these, and so many of these towns in West Virginia have adopted these because they keep our young folks from leaving. West Virginia loses more population than any other state in the country. And one thing that would go a long way to keeping our, talented young folks here is to make sure that West Virginia, broadcasts very clearly that we're not for discrimination of any kind. And that also goes for attracting the best and brightest employees that our businesses rely on. A lot of these businesses, don't want to locate in places that don't have these non-discrimination protections because they rely heavily on trying to find talented and highly skilled employees for their, to staff up. And so and this is why so many communities in West Virginia have adopted these policies so that they can attract these businesses to their hometowns or their home cities. So these are a couple of the reasons why we do this. But, the variety and diversity of towns that have adopted this range from Charleston, our largest city in the state, but also Thurman, West Virginia, the smallest town in America with a non-discrimination law. Population 5, and all 5 of them voted for it.
They're all on council.
Yeah.
Are there any in the Eastern Panhandle that you
Yes.
cite that we could then, as part of our due diligent process, in addition to speaking to attorneys and all the other
Kaiser.
things we do?
Yes.
Kaiser.
Kaiser has one, Shepherdstown, Martinsburg, Harpers Ferry, Bolivar,
Thank you.
and Charlestown. And I'm going to use the rest of my time to quote Ken Sayer, who's the city attorney for Martinsburg, who actually has advised other municipalities to help them. And he wrote a letter. He said, the city of Martinsburg passed a similar non-discrimination ordinance on February 11, 2016. The council made findings that equal opportunity in the areas of employment, public accommodations is hereby declared to be a human right or a civil right of all persons without regard to race, religion, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, age, blindness, handicap, or sexual orientation, gender identity. Then he goes on to say that the action of the council further created the ability for a person to bring a private action for violation of the ordinance, but excluded the city from having authority to take actions. So what that means is that the city doesn't bear any burden for making sure that you have all of your citizens protected.
Who's the enforcement agent then?
The courts.
Okay.
And he goes on to say that the ordinance only gives an individual the right to protection, does not require the city to take action. The ordinance does not grant jurisdiction to any court. However, if otherwise within the jurisdiction of the court, the plaintiff would have the ability to prosecute their claims.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's good to know those other towns, because we would definitely make that part of our process, to be talking to them and get them to share their own experience and success, concerns.
And Ken wanted also me to pass on that he is a person that you can reach out to, because he is happy to help advise communities like yours on how to move forward.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to speak to council?
I think you have somebody.
I just have a question. So your Protection Act, so say if, because I heard about sexual orientation and stuff like that, and I've heard this from other stories, and I just want to get clarity, because I don't know if it's necessarily true what those other stories are. But say, for instance, I run into a trans person who identifies as a female, but definitely looks like a male. And I say, sir, and they get offended, are they able to take me to court from that one instance? Because that's what I've heard.
Well, that's not true.
I just wanted to clarify on that.
No. I mean, you're not denying them housing for.
Oh, so it's just for like housing and
housing. Yeah, you're not denying them a meal at a restaurant.
I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
like I said, if I see somebody on the street or something and
No,
people get
that's-
really offended,
that's an
and I just
innocent
want to make
mistake.
sure.
Yeah, that's an innocent mistake.
Because the whole people getting offended stuff nowadays, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, there's the 3 categories.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else?
Can I ask Andrew a question? Is that like with the time or whatnot?
Go right ahead.
Can we-
Okay.
Can't we do this in ordinance? Isn't
I seem to understand that the state laws and federal laws, although I'm sketchy on this, for example, with regard to employment discrimination, do not apply to small businesses.
Correct.
Is that correct? So there's like a number
Yeah.
15?
Yes.
So one of the things I was thinking about is
You want
the
me to-
country inn.
Do you want me to explain the difference?
Yes. So how would that work
The Federal
here?
Civil Rights Act,
Oh, okay.
as interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court, basically extends these protections for sexual orientation, gender identity, but the Civil Rights Act, the Federal Civil Rights Act, only covers 15 employees or more in a business or company. So you go to West Virginia, and the Human Rights Act of West Virginia, which does not protect sexual orientation and gender identity, but does protect the other classes, some other classes, only covers 12 or more employees. So doing it on the municipal level would extend it to all businesses. So it actually provides more protection for everyone, including veterans, just by virtue of the fact that municipal ordinances cover all employees as opposed to 12 or more in the state of West Virginia, or 15 or more under federal law.
All right, I would suggest the rest of it, we could convene with the ordinance committee, so the ordinance committee can go through and kind of understand exactly what's what, and then go from there. So, so if there is nobody else that wants to speak about any other subject, okay, I will ask council for common consent to adjourn the meeting.
Agree here.
Hey, Rebecca, are you still planning on taking Liberty?
I haven't talked to him about that.
Especially